Hi, everybody. Alan Arnette here with another podcast and a blog on alanarnette.com. It is Sunday, March 23rd, 2025, and this is the weekend update for Everest 2025. I'll be doing this throughout the season, wrapping up at the end of May. And what I'm going to do is try to cover what happened in the previous week, looking back, and then a look forward as what we can expect. I'm going to cover the big trends, probably not a lot of individual climbers or individual teams. It's become more and more difficult to get accurate information these days because the marketing spin is just out of control. But I've got sources on the mountain and my own knowledge of being on Everest or Lhotse 6 times. Only summited once on Everest in 2011, but I got a lot of experience in that area, so I get to kind of look through and figure out where the truth is and what's a little bit of exaggeration for marketing purposes. So that's my pledge to you, is to bring you the most accurate information that I can, along with any other information I think is relevant, including potentially the tragic news of people dying on the mountain. So I've already done several introductory blog post this year. One of them was Everest by the Numbers. And this is where I take an in-depth look at using the Himalayan database to talk about all the various people who have climbed it, the numbers. And let me just give you a quick summary of that. For the last 102 years, from 1922 to 2024, there have been a total of 12,884 summits of Everest by 7,269 individuals. So roughly 7,000 people have made almost 13,000 summits. So obviously there's a lot of duplication, a lot of repeats in that. And mostly those are the Sherpas. And now the Sherpas have more summits than foreigners do on Everest. And every single year that's growing and growing. However, still more foreigners or clients are dying than Sherpas on Everest. A lot of people think that the Sherpas have the vast majority of that death toll, but the reality is it's the members. And a lot of that, honestly, has been driven by inexperience. So if you look at it by the side of the mountain, Nepal and Tibet, the Nepal side has around 9,000 summits, and the Tibet side has about 3,700. So almost triple on the Nepal side. Lots of reasons for that. One is that Tibet requires that you've summited a 7,000 meter mountain, in some cases an 8,000 meter for Chinese nationals. So they end up going over to the Nepal side to climb. Also, traditionally, the Tibet side has been it's more difficult because you're climbing on rocks a lot rather than snow. So most people prefer to take the more straightforward route on the southeast col on the Nepal side. Plus, people enjoy trekking through the Khumbu to get there, whereas on the Tibet side, you drive to the Chinese base camp on the Tibetan side. In terms of deaths, kind of mentioned that a minute ago, there's been 335 deaths since 1922, back to Mallory and Irvine days. The Nepal side leads there again with 225 deaths, and there's only been 110 on the Tibetan side. So that's kind of a big picture overview. You can go and look at that post, and I've got a ton of data on there. So if you're really interested in all the data, being a data nerd like me, then you'll enjoy that. Another one I did was comparing the routes of Everest. So this is looking at the 20 some odd named routes. Of course, we know that the two routes that are most common are from the northeast and the southeast side, the Tibetan side and the Nepal side. But if you look at the overall numbers there, it's just, I mean, it's just there's no comparison. It's 99% of the summits have come on the two commercial routes. And today, it's very rare to see someone trying to climb Everest on one of the non-two main routes. The only one that's been doing it with any regularity recently is Joost Kovic. I had a podcast with him a couple of months ago, and his goal has not been to summit. It's been to really explore and just understand the West Ridge. And he's done that for three times now. He's gotten up to almost 8,000 meters. And I'm pretty sure that the next time he goes, he's going to get all the way to the top. At least that's certainly kind of what I would expect him to see. The other one another post I've done is how much does it cost to climb Everest, my annual coverage there. I go through and look at all the various guide companies, from Nepali companies to international companies. And this year, the prices have gone up a little bit. The Nepali companies have raised their prices a little bit, about 9%. And the foreigners, the foreign companies like, let's say, Alpine Ascents or Madison Mountaineering or Climbing to Seven Summits, something like that, they raised it just a little bit, but not quite as much. So this year, the overall on the Nepal side, the median for this year is around $44,000. If you want to go with a Western company, that jumps up to around $77,000. Of course, it goes as high as like 125 or 150,000 with some companies. And the Nepali companies will typically give some type of a discount, and a lot of people are climbing with them in the $35,000 range, maybe even less expensive if you can really get a good deal. So, the costs continue to go up year after year after year, and we all have heard that Nepal is going to raise the permit price from 11,000 to 15,000, but they're not going to put it into effect until September of this year. So the spring season is still the bargain rate of $11,000. And so that's the reason I'm expecting to see quite a number of people on Everest this spring. I'm expecting to see between 700 and 800 total summits, and that would be made up of around 150 from the Tibet side. So this is members and hired, using the terminology of the Himalayan database. So in other words, clients and guides, Sherpas and foreign guides, or expedition leaders, etc. So 150 on the Tibetan side and well over 650 on the Nepal side. Even if they hit those numbers, it's going to be less than the pre-pandemic numbers of 2019, when there were 877 total summits in that year. Last year was a huge year with 787 summits from the Nepal side and 74 from the Tibetan side. So it was close to the record year, and I expect this year to smash it given the price increase coming up. And there's kind of a pent-up demand, especially on the Tibetan side. This will be the first time since 2019 that Tibet side has been completely opened. They closed it for several years because of COVID. Last year, they had some delays in issuing permits, which actually forced a lot of companies to abandon the Tibetan side and go to the Nepal side. But this year looks like it's clear sailing. So I expect to see the regular suspects over there. Alpenglow will be there as usual. They run a stellar operation. They've never had a fatality in the history of the company. So they have a great record doing their rapid ascents over there. Also, supposedly Kobler and Partner, the Swiss outfit, and Seven Summits Club out of Russia will also be there. Also, I'm going to bring up Xenon. That has made a lot of news here recently. And Lucas Frutenbach and his company out of Austria, they are going to be using a group of, I think it's 4 climbers out of the UK that they're going to pre-acclimatize. Lucas also runs the rapid trips. He runs it in 2 to 3 weeks, but this is going to be a 1-week trip. And supposedly this xenon gas, which is also used in anesthesia, so that's why it's incredibly controversial, but they are very confident that it works and is safe, having used it himself. Lucas attests to it. He used it on Aconcagua. But these 4 climbers will use it and supposedly go home to home, let's say a Saturday to Saturday, and summit Everest when the weather window opens up. So that'll be kind of fun to watch and see how it works out. I've written a couple of blogs about this. I'm not a doctor. I can't have any opinion on whether it's safe or it is effective to increase the red blood cell count. But on a style basis, it's not for me. I think expeditions are a climb like an Everest is an experience to be enjoyed and not something to be rushed through to go claim a bag, claim a peak, claim a summit, and come home and brag to your friends. I don't think that's what these guys are doing. I think they generally want to climb the mountain. A lot of them are experienced. A couple of them have also been on Everest before. So anyway, it'll be interesting to watch how this thing develops. I've got a whole blog article on it. There was great coverage on it in the Financial Times back in January of 2025, and we'll see how it all works out. Another thing that's kind of new for this year, 2025, is going to be using drones. Last year, they experimented with it on the Nepal side. It's been used on the Chinese side to ferry some gear between base camp and like ABC or the North Col. But this year it is going to be kind of in full force on the Nepal side. The Icefall Doctors, who are already there, they've been in there for about a week. They're going to be using it to scout out the route going through the icefall. Last year, they had a really difficult time finding a proper path to go through it. It ended up being a little bit longer than normal. This year we'll see how it all works out because every year it's different because the ice fall is 2,000 feet of moving ice. It doesn't move like a river; it moves in spurts. That's what makes it so dangerous. That when it jerks and all of a sudden gravity pulls over one of those large seracs, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, that's where the fatalities occur. But they'll be using the drones also to carry gear up to Camp 2 to fix the route up to the summit. The Icefall Doctors will fix it from base camp up to Camp 2, and then 8K expeditions with their expert team of Sherpas will then fix the route from Camp 2 all the way to the summit. And similarly on the Tibetan side, there's a dedicated group of Tibetans that fix the route all the way from advanced base camp all the way to the summit. So it's not done by individual teams like on the Nepal side. So that's going to be interesting. I'm really curious to hear what the feedback is from the climbers, if they're seeing a lot of noise from these drones flying over. Again, I really understand the use of drones and technology to reduce the number of trips through the icefall. However, it makes me think that, one helicopter trip could probably get all of that gear up there, maybe two helicopter trips versus having, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 drones flying back and forth over several days. I wouldn't want to be climbing through the icefall with those drones flying over my head just because of the noise, and it kind of breaks the vibe. It's not going to shake up anything. It's not going to cause an avalanche or like an earthquake would. But I don't know. Again, I think that there's a way that they can thread the needle here by using helicopters. There's also talk of using drones to cook meals at base camp and then bring up hot meals to people up at Camp 1 or Camp 2. Again, I can just see this thing getting out of hand. It's going to be crazy. Another thing that's going to happen again this year is last year Nepal introduced the concept of using WAG bags, WAG, to take down solid human feces. This has been done on mountains like Denali and Aconcagua for decades. So it's about time that Nepal instituted it. They did it last year. It was reasonably successful, and I applaud them for making that happen. So it's going to get even better this year, and maybe we can begin to see, especially places like the South Col, get cleaned up a little bit better, or at least not add to the problem that's already there. Another rule that Nepal is going to put in, it doesn't start until September, like the price increase, is that every climber will have to have at least, it'll be a 2-to-1 climber to Sherpa ratio. It used to be 1-to-1, and I don't think that was ever really enforced. And it's kind of a moot point because as we have more inexperienced climbers and we have people using more oxygen, that's requiring more Sherpa support. And it's coming to these days to where it's anywhere from one climber having 1.5 Sherpas to be with them. In some cases, there's 3 Sherpas for every climber, and that's due to the inexperience mostly. So, that's part of why we have more Sherpas summiting Everest than we have clients these days, and that's also why the numbers are continuing to grow. Again, it wouldn't shock me. I know it says 700, 800, but it wouldn't shock me to see 1,000 summits from both sides, including from both sides this year, just smashing the previous ones. Another thing that's going to be interesting to watch is going to be Tyler Andrews. He's an American, and he wants to try to break the current speed record going from EBC to the summit and back in 20 hours and 24 minutes is the current record set by Kaji Sherpa in 1998. Kaji climbed with supplemental oxygen. Tyler will not be doing it. He supposedly thinks he can do it in, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 hours. He holds 85 mountain speed records, including on Manaslu, Kilimanjaro, and Aconcagua. So he certainly has the pedigree to do this, and wish him all the best of luck in the world. He's talking about climbing it, leaving base camp, and timing it in such a way that he misses all the other people on the mountain. So in terms of who's going to be there, it's the usual suspects: Alpine Ascents, International Mountain Guides, Climbing to Seven Summits, Madison Mountaineering, Summit Climb. They're all going to be on the Nepal side. On the Tibetan side, like I said earlier, Seven Summits Club, Colbert and Partner, Fruitenbach. The poly companies, they'll dominate the action again. People like 8K Expeditions, they have 50 members already signed up. Asian Trekking will be there. Elite will be there. Imagine Nepal, Peak Promotion, Pioneer, Seven Summits Treks. They'll probably have 100 clients. So they'll end up hitting 60-70% of the total summits will be guided, maybe even 80% guided by the poly companies. And this is a growing trend. It's been going for a long time, and this particular race is pretty well over. It's just a matter now of how many companies will stay in business as it gets more expensive, and also as more government regulations come into play. The Nepal Supreme Court last year issued just a slew, around 12 new orders, including limiting the number of people on the Tibetan side, the Nepal side. But like usual, none of those, except maybe the WAG bags, have been implemented. Nepal is notorious for issuing new rules that everybody just ignores. And this one, I'm a little surprised because it came from the Supreme Court, but it always comes down to the operators, and they've got the final say, and they're on the mountain. And the whole idea of having liaison officers to monitor it just really has never been effective, and they've tried to address that as well. So it'll be an interesting season. I don't expect to see anything dramatically different this season from last year. I was thinking last year after the Cornish broke on the Hillary Step, killing 2 people, in the number of crowds issuing record permits, that might have been the point of no return. Well, I think what it was, it just became the new norm. And I think that's what we're going to see again this year. In terms of the other 8,000 meter mountains, Annapurna has 50 permits issued, Dhaulagiri 20, Makalu 60, Lhotse 80, Kanchenjunga has 40 issued. Let's see, Altitude Junkies is going to be in Kanchenjunga. I think it may be their first time to go there, so that'll be great for Phil Crampton and that crew. China has closed Choyu and Shishapangma for climbing this spring. It's assumed, this is an assumption only, that they'll open it up for climbing in the autumn season. They gave no reason for closing it in the spring season, but they have Everest open, but not their other 2 8,000 meter mountains. One thing over that we can watch would be kind of fun to watch. It'll be a new route on the Annapurna site on Annapurna by a couple of gentlemen that are going to be going up and trying to establish a new route. And that kind of brings, I think it's really cool because it's going to keep the whole spirit of exploration and adventure alive. We don't see a lot of new routes on these commercialized 8,000 meter mountains. We do on smaller peaks, but not on peaks like Everest or Annapurna. So this will be great to watch. Okay, wrapping up next week, there'll be more and more people that'll arrive in Kathmandu. We'll hopefully get some better numbers on terms of the permits and get some progress. I know Alpine Ascents and Seven Summits Treks, they're both at base camp, Everest Base Camp on the Nepal side, setting up. Most people these days either try to acclimatize at home using altitude tents, or they go and do a trekking peak like Lobuche or Island Peak, maybe even Mira Peak, and then they go to Everest Base Camp, arriving around April 15th, so tax day in the U.S., and then they begin their rotations. It used to be you do 3, 4, 5 rotations all the way up to Camp 3. I'll talk a lot more about this as the season goes on, but these days it's more in vogue to do 1 or 2 rotations only due to this pre-acclimatization techniques. So again, we'll watch how it all develops, and it'll be a lot of fun following the season. So I'm wishing everybody a very, very safe season. Just be careful out there. Don't take chances. Watch out for rockfall and avalanches on the other mountains, not necessarily so much on Everest, but certainly on places like Annapurna. So be safe, everybody, and we'll keep you updated throughout the season. Climb on. This is Alan, and remember, memories are everything.